technologies, yep.
Right.
And he said it right there on Kill Tony. And the reason why I documented this, because we're in the now, and this is going to be history 10 years from now. So people are acting like this science has been there forever. It's just finally coming out of the woodworks. But the kid that was up there, he's probably in his 20s, and he's like, well, this is fairly new. And so these are new ideologies that are being meshed together.
It's new to him because he's 10.
Well, no, he's in his 20s. I met a guy that had a sex change and was married, and I never even knew that he was once a woman. I could never even tell. His name was Chris. And I always thought that Chris was a man. Until, and that's another thing, that even if you're transgender, to me, there was a thing growing up called hermaphrodites. You could be born with the genitals and a female genital and male genital at the same time. And that could have been a female specimen or a male specimen.
You could have ovaries and testes.
Yep, so that to me is transgender.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, how is that not? So there's a difference between having the reality of being transgender and you choosing to do it rather than, but you're still a gender then. Because like, let's say you sat there and said that there's transgender and we're gonna remove gender, then you're not, well, actually in believing Galatians, he says that those who are with Christ and take on Christ is nor Gentile, Greek, Jew, nor male, nor female, for we are all one in Christ and God. And when I see it is that the more that I've evolved my awareness of life is that every woman that I'm talking to is a reflection of my mom, they're my sister, they're my wife, they're my girlfriend. These are just labels that we apply to ourselves. And yeah, I know, but every woman in my life is a reflection of my mom. I have a daughter. She's going to one day be a mom. She'll grow up and get married, hopefully. But my point, and then every man is a reflection of a father, a boy that was once a boy that becomes, so we're all archetypically, reflections of each other within, this is some really deep stuff.
Like I'm supposed to be.
What's that?
Supposed to be.
What do you mean?
Like you figure a woman this way, supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
A male this way is supposed to be.
Idealism or just the way that it is? I had a lot of chaotic, traumatic relationships.
I don't know.
And if it wasn't for those chaotic relationships, I wouldn't have been so picky or
like
created
women,
idealism.
They have children.
Yep.
A man that wants to be a woman will not have children.
But what I'm saying is this. If we're going to do away with the idea of, let's call them pronouns, whatever, male, female, okay? And it's transgender, then they're most transgender people are either converting from a female to a male.
No,
Or are they just going to not be anything?
There's males transverting.
Oh, becoming women?
Yes.
Either way. So they're becoming a gender. They're leaving their gender to become another gender.
Another gender.
But it's still the same things. This doesn't make any sense.
I think it's in here.
Listen, some people believe that they are aliens trapped in their own skin that come from a different planet. I've met some people that think that they are reincarnated from Egypt.
Are you serious?
I am dead serious. There is a place in Maine called Bath Iron Works where they literally are hiring furries, and they call themselves basically furries.
What is that?
That's where they believe that they're a cat and a dog. And they are, from what I've discovered or heard, we're putting human litter boxes for furries so they can shit in a real litter box. Now, whether these are accurate sentiments,
are they having fur transplanted on their bodies?
What is happening is because of the transgender movement and people wanting to live in an imaginary place in their own mind of identity, it's causing other repercussions in other work environments of people. It's like I heard, and I don't know if this is true or not, but in the court of law, in a commercial law, UCC or the world of commerce, an unrebutted affidavit stands as truth. So somebody has to rebut an affidavit for it to stand as truth. And this is some of the things that I've discovered. So what if I create an affidavit that I'm a female, 5 years old, and now you got to rebut that affidavit? You have to find somehow and then science trying to mold its own. Think about what stands as the truth of time.
How does that happen? So you're saying that a person can state that they are an animal,
yes,
even though their biological is not an animal, and yet they can get treated as an animal?
Yep.
how does their health insurance do that? Or do they need a vet?
That's a great comical question. That's one of the best. Again, we're going into cuckoo land, which makes me more go towards like, I live in more of an isolated hermetic state. I read the scripture. The only way I can feel like I'm not overloading my mind with so much is to watch like, comedy stand-up comedy makes me kind of unplug. I like to walk around and just kind of look at nature.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
But
That's
I see where society's going, and it's not that I'm, it's like I see where it's going, but they don't see where it's going while they're living in it.
Well, you have to live in a moment.
I do, but I also see, because of the things that I've been shown or been.
It seems like you're observing a lot, and you're absorbing a lot, and you're like, but you're not enjoying the moment. It seems like you're scared of what's to come. My own personal view.
Hey, thank you. I really appreciate that observation. You may be accurate. I mean, it's because there was a point of where I was living in the moment, and then all this trauma happened, and it pulled me into a state of where I feel like I needed to be so I can face myself where I ran from, rather than face, you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because when I left here, I was running, and I didn't realize it until I come back.
But you don't know where you're going to.
Well, I know that if I stayed here and every day was like Groundhog Day, then I would say the universe is trying to teach me something.
Yeah.
And now that I know this, I'm humbling myself back down and not trying to go anywhere, but just be. And then let things pan out rather than me trying to push here or think I have to go here or I got to do this. Because
it seems like you're trying to learn everything.
I wouldn't say that.
But if you're doing it, it's a whirlwind.
Maybe through a perceptionary lens of where you're at. I can't help what's brought to my attention. Okay? The only thing I can do is either not pay attention to anything and then be in the now, like you said, be in nature, go sit at the beach, play my guitar a little bit.
In that hole, yeah.
Yep. But as soon as I have an obsessive personality, but it's honed in. So one day I'm sitting there, I'm reading the Bible. The Bible led me into other topics and books. That's why I love the Bible. Then one day I'm sitting there, I'm reading the Bible, and what I got was from the Bible that God created law, and man right away disobeyed the law. Okay?
So what's the next thing? Is you go to law.
That's what happened for me.
It's a
so
you go to
yep. So God showed me by reading the Bible that there's two of everything, okay? Because there's two Cains. There's God's law, but then there's Satan's law, which they call the legal system. So they said that, yeah, I know. So because God lets Satan exist in his way, which is a crooked tongue, backward speak, okay, this is also the legal system in a way. So you have God's law and you have Satan's law.
Then you go politics, Republican.
So then so then you go into this. Well, I look at it like this. I feel like the Vatican has understood how the laws of the universe work, the laws itself of the universe, and have mastered these things from the spiritual plane into the physical. So, and you can see this in the political paradigm because they create the leaders. They're all related. They're all pushing an agenda no matter what. You would never know what the problem is until they told you what the problem is that they need to fix.
Because they created
the problem, you see?
Right.
So they create the puppet politician on each side with a great mouthpiece to make you lose faith in yourself, because we should be governing ourselves. But instead for artificial money, and I've learned a lot. Yeah, I did learn a lot. But I'm glad I did. I got shown the truth because of Jesus Christ. So because of the truth that I've learned, I wouldn't say that it makes you mad, but they say the truth will make you mad and then it sets you free. So I would say that there's a level of where there could be some insanity that comes with learning all of it, like you said. But I still think that my passion has pushed me now into more law. So it's not really with politics because you can't pay attention to that. That's smoke and mirrors. It's all law still has. I love law. I think that law has been more broken down more into procedure rather than the theatrics that can come with it of where we debate many different statutes or remedy to the recourse. Because this is what they're doing. They're turning everybody into a criminal with recourse. What's the remedy?
They're binding.
I know. So as an attorney, the question is can they actually get cases really truly dismissed, or does it always have to be an equal balance between the court and the...
There's often times that I go home and cry because I
Yeah.
wish that the child would have got home with the parent that was supposed to be. That doesn't mean that the judge was a bad guy. That means that the judge had to follow the law. So is
Okay.
that the person or the law?
So give me the example.
No,
All
I
right.
can't.
You can't give me an example, okay, because there's too much in the private,
Correct.
confidential stuff. Okay. So let's think about, okay, so let's say it involved, you know, yeah. From what I've discovered, and I don't know if it's absolutely true because I've never had a conversation with a lawyer that's my friend and that's willing to disclose things in a friendship level rather than a level of where, you know, and the more you learn this stuff, all you really care about is that stuff. I don't want to talk to my family. They have no idea what I'm talking about. They think it's Babylonian language that they speak, and we're crazy because of the language that we speak. And it's legalese language. They don't understand it. But, you know, I love the foundations of all law, and where it's become now is that I believe that an officer, or an attorney is an officer of the court. So even though they still work for the client, their interest is still to the court.
It has to be.
I know, that's brutal, because that's a conflict of interest. So that makes me have a distrust for my attorney. You understand?
And yet
So-
you have to.
I
Your
know,
attorney.
I'm having conversations.
Yeah.
Yes, well, I think that there's boundaries. Just like the church. There's certain things they can't say or they're going to lose their license. So yeah, I've met pastors where they're not allowed to talk
They have
about,
license.
pretty sure they have,
I think I don't think, I've never went to my father and did a confession and said, hey, is your license, I don't think they have license. They have
Well,
oaths.
I talked to one pastor and my brother, and we were having arguments about the Sabbath day and esoterics and the real depth of religion and spirituality rather than just, you know, church every Sunday, a song and a prayer and a dance and give me some money and I'll see you next Sunday. And so this started my pastor to argue with me, and then me and my brother were having discussions of where he didn't know what side to take because he was going to church and he's trying to have faith in what this pastor's saying. And then here's Seneca, his brother, saying, you know, contradictory things of the church and talking about Vatican and the Rome and how they did the Inquisitions and forced people to do this and blah, 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 and how a lot of these things have taken over our churches today. And so then this led Pastor Mike having to basically say, he took Lon to a private ceremony and like more with deeper pastors and started to try to teach him more deeper in behind the veil, I guess, of what you would get past just going to church on a Sunday and having a sermon be spoke to you, and then you give your money into the offering plate and then you go back home and you like feel great because you went to church. I would always have questions, deeper questions, deeper questions. So yes, so this led to arguments and debates and certain things, and me to read more and do further inquiries of my own.
Your own investigation.
Yep, that led
Of
to,
your own religion.
I guess, well, Christianity still came from Christ, which is no different than Judo-Christianity, but the difference is that the Catholic Church and those people of that time, they couldn't kill all the Christians, so they adopted Christianity themselves and began to organize their own precepts. So if you know, take on a personal relationship with Jesus Christ and keep reading the scripture, you also become a church yourself. So it's not taking on my own religion. It's taking on that interpretation without having somebody else try to tell me. You understand?
You take on the word of God and you spread it.
Yep, exactly. But I have nothing against...
As you receive it, and as they receive it, they receive it.
Yes.
As they want to receive it.
There is...
Not how you push it. It's not like pushing drugs.
You're right. You know, you're speaking the truth. This is where I'm at now, is where, when I first started, it was like I met people that didn't believe in God and didn't want to go to church because of traumatic things that happened when they were young, that because of me reading the scripture and then sitting down with them, showing them the scripture, they began to go out and buy a Bible themselves. Next, they're praying to God. And it has nothing to do with me now. You see what I'm saying? And so they took on the Spirit in their own way.
It is theirs.
It's theirs now. And so, there's something to me more magical and intimate with that is even beyond my own understanding and power. You understand? It is for God. It has nothing to do with me. So when I look at churches, to me, they're too judgmental. Who am I to judge the church when they judge everybody else? I'm now no different than them. So in my evolution of self, I have learned to respect all paradigms. Even the church. They say back in the day, for like, let's say you were a different religion and I try to convert you, they say that that's an act of war. And the more that I learn about, people's belief spectrums and who they are, I want to respect them and try to now veer away from trying to teach somebody what I think is the truth or should be the truth or whatever. Does that make sense?
No, I hear what you're saying.
Because it does create an argument. And what's the motive? That you're right and I'm wrong? You see, now there's a war.
There's no war when it's trying to find God.
Okay. But that's a different question than we were talking about, let's say, about politics or, because right now I look at, this is identity politics. It's not about ideologies. Back in the day, it was private who you voted for. Your political affiliation, your religious belief, all that stuff was private. Now as we get along in the modern world, it's like, who do you vote for? And it's like, well, it doesn't really matter. It's what I believe in. And then, I could say certain things, and because you've heard on the propaganda media channels that this person that says these things is a Trump supporter, or he believes in this guy, or
I don't vote.
Like, let's think about this new politically correct speech, which if you follow Marxism, that's where we get political correctness. It's through Marxism.
I don't know anything about that.
I know. Not a lot of people do.
Nor do I want to.
Well,
I choose not to.
I respect that.
I'm that ostrich.
Okay. That's where you want to be?
I choose to. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm glad I met you.
Right there.
Thank you.
That's judgment.
No, I'm now questioning and actually psychoanalyzing the why. And it's really not my place to know the why.
And you're not allowed to.
But I can.
Well, yes.
I can know the why, but
you
when
can.
See, what you're doing is you're helping me. You're helping me this, because I would have never been able to meet you if I didn't have this conversation. So that I wouldn't know that ideology now. Like, you just gave me an archetype or a personality type. So you're the type that wants to stick your head in the hole and not, basically just be the ostrich with your head in the hole, right?
Yes.
So now right away, that look that you got was not judgment. It was like, how come? Let me understand your psychopathy. I want to know why you think the way you do.
Know. You wonder.
But then again, I don't want to know.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because that's not anything I want to try to challenge inside my own self, except for just accept.
And you don't get to, because it's mine.
No, in myself though. Because I can leave here tomorrow or right now, and I have to have you now in my memory bank. And so now I met somebody outside of me that is essentially now, as soon as I leave, I've gathered this into me. The perception that I have of you is really me. But it's still you too. So now when I leave, I'm going to think about this and ponder this type of personality type. Why?
Because I am.
Somebody says
that fantastic.
Ignorance is bliss. So is that what it is? Not knowing is better than knowing?
No.
Okay.
No. I know a lot, but there's a lot that I do not want to know.
Okay.
Because I don't trust it.
Okay.
So I'd rather not know certain things. Because the things that I do know make me happy.
Well, I'll take it as a...
And the things that I don't know, well, I don't know them.
Well, you can scratch the surface of things. And it's like, curiosity, I guess, killed the cat.
Satisfaction brought it back.
Okay. So, nice. Keeps the circle going. Yeah.
I'd just rather not know.
Well, do you think there's some things we shouldn't know? Really? Or just you? And your type?
To me, there's things that I know.
Okay, so it becomes
There's
haunting.
things that I've been through. There's things that I know that my kids have done, folks have done, past.
You know what?
But there's things that I don't want to jump into of the future.
Okay.
So I'm kind of like, no, I don't want to know. We'll see when I get there. We'll see when I have to pull my head out of that sand.
I've met a lot of strange people in my life, and some of them were in the military, and they done some things, terrible things. And when you're brought to the awareness of like top secret confidential information, you look at mainly society as innocent because they don't know these things. You understand? They are. They don't know these things. And if they did, they would know that the world's not, it doesn't have, it's not, there's good in everyone, basically. And then, because that's what they choose to focus on,
There is good in everybody, but there's bad that happens.
There's bad, exactly. And there's a lot of darkness of this world that some people have to be aware of. I'm sure presidents, military generals, these people, I still look at my federal government. One of the most fascinating things that helped me respect the police was watching a trial. It was a Chandler Halderson case. First, it was the Darrell Brooks case. He drove through the Waukesha parade, killing I think it was like 6 people, but he injured like 60 or 70. And he chose to go pro se, propria persona. He wanted to represent himself.
Yeah.
Terrible. He showed me what not to do in court. It was a great educational experience. Then, I don't know why, it brought me to the next trial, which was the Chandler Halderson case. The prosecutor in that was phenomenal. I mean, he was amazing. And then the way that the police started from just the beginning, just from the regular average deputy, all the way down to these forensic scientists and everybody, it made me respect even the most, ignorant cop out there, on the street, I think they caught Ted Bundy by pulling him over. Just a regular cop doing a traffic stop.
Yeah.
Found Ted Bundy with a body in the trunk, and then this is how it all starts. And it's like, wow, this is incredible.
Oopsies.
Yep.
Hi, darling.
Hello.
Hey, what's up?
I've been by to see y'all a couple of times, but y'all keep late hours.
Well, no,
Y'all
we
don't
were
come to
out all
work
last
till-
week.
Oh, okay. I'd asked Paul if he was gonna be here.
And we didn't go to church on Sunday, so
He said, yeah.
I think we'll talk to her. He's over now. They're
I'll just go over and talk to him.
Okay.
This is.
Nice. So the Chandler Halderson case really opened me up to, and then I've challenged police, and I realized they have authority. I have authority. We the people. I love the Constitution of the state. I look back when my parents were young in the 60s and stuff. This is really where the legislators came in and revamped the Constitution and created it more for them than they did for the people. But there were certain limitations they could not cross. And then through these revisions of constitutional, statutes and legislation titles and all the things. And so, as I got,
things changed.
it doesn't have to change as far as,
It did, though.
I know it did. I know.
Yeah.
It's got worse. That's what happened.
Yeah.
Irresponsibility of free people and not taking care of and recognizing what is
Who
theirs.
has the authority?
Yeah. It,
People or
it
who
became-
we vote for?
I'm gonna say I do get aggravated, but I try not to place blame. It's kind of like you saying you want to keep your head in the sand.
Mm-hmm.
I think my family wanted to do the same thing. They thought, God does have a plan, but don't be surprised when you're praying, God hands you a shovel. You know, there was a parable I heard of like an individual, you know, there was a tsunami that came in and started to flood all the streets. He started to pray to God. He was down in his house. Next, you know, it started to get more flooded, and he would go upstairs and, you know, try to raid it out. And people were coming by, honking the horn, you know, hey, we got you. God's going to get me. He's going to save me. Next, you know, he's on the roof, and, you know, somebody comes with a life raft, and eventually he ends up drowning, you know, because he didn't
take what
yeah, that was God was trying to give him, was the protection that he needed and everything.
Yeah.
So it's the same way. My grandmother was screaming at the television, telling me, I mean, she was so heavily involved in politics, and I would call her, even though me and her didn't have a good relationship. And I'd be like, hey, Graham. And we'd be on the phone for hours, and she'd be like, you should be a politician. And I think what it was is that I was listening to her and saying, well, this needs to be done, or this ain't right, or whatever, you know, not realizing that she was speaking to me, not only from her own self, but to me, maybe future me, I don't know. And as I've gotten older, I went to go be a police officer, and then they told me that they don't follow rights, that they have statutes and rules and procedure, and it didn't sit with me, you know, violating people's rights. I have a conscience. I could not go to sleep at night knowing that that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
So then was thinking about being a lawyer because I love the law, but then I found out that their interest is still towards the court, which hurts me again, and I don't know why it hurts me. I wish it didn't hurt me. I think it's because I believe we're free and that we really do live in a free country. And I think as long as I don't hurt you or hurt anybody or injure them, then I didn't really break the law. And I still believe if I own an automobile or a motor vehicle or whatever you want to call it towards the language of the law, okay, I do believe that we should insure our vehicle. Because if it hurts somebody, you're insured, you understand? And that's what we're supposed to be doing.
Take responsibility.
Absolutely.
As long as you don't
So-
infringe on anybody else's rights.
Yep. And a lot of people believe that they can do whatever they want in this movement of freedom, when no, because one day I was having a conversation with this officer, Andrew Feeney, and he's like, well, what are we supposed to do if you guys want to speed? Because I'm a part of the Maine Assembly, and I just got down to Florida, and I'm joining the Florida Assembly, but I've been spending more time working with the politicians and the government in Maine, making more of a proactive change that, you know, you can't just pull people over. If you know, some people are Americans. They should not have to have a license to fish to eat. Okay, I can see sport, but not to live. Not if I'm living off the land and I'm staying on the land. And I studied these laws of constitutionality versus ex post facto laws.
Isn't that just like looking like in between the lines? Like, yeah, you can fish, but you do need a fishing license.
For what?
You need the fish to eat. You know what I mean?
This is somebody, to me, again, these were provisions that were rights that over time, through people and legislation and voting, between what is going to be safe and security,
By the people, for the people.
but it's become mandatory to where you're not free.
That's the word you don't like.
What, mandatory? I just think that what's good for you is good for me. So
Mandatory.
you should be free.
That means I have to.
For who, though? Who has the authority to tell me these things? God
Exactly.
or man?
Exactly.
So I'm going to listen to God then.
Mandatory. You don't like that word.
What it is.
I have to. And who declares who has to?
So this
What
is where
has to.
authority comes in. And if I look at, you know, section 1, the power is inherent in the people. So who's the people? Is it the people that become elected officials and representatives, or is it the people? The body of the people.
Is that the politics or the law?
Again, we do have natural law. Without one people, we couldn't have any people at all. If you look at the Native Americans, a lot like Abenaki is called the people of the dawn. Cherokee, these are all original people. Even the Bible looks at people as people. And then as we've gotten older, and if you read Matthew 22, it talks about the authority of God. And he says, he uses the word man and persons in the same sentence, as though he already knows the difference in the language of the law. Jesus himself is knowing that he cares not for the persons of man, but the man himself within God. So there's natural law, and I feel like if I'm living each moment in the moment, and I didn't contract with anybody, then I'm not obligated. I didn't contract with you. But as soon as I start to contract, because there's a phrase called parens patriae, which talks about the government being the parent and the guardian. And so because people have given up their own biological property, their own rights, the state is the parent until you can take back your own guardianship. So who is my father? Is it God in heaven or is it the government? So again, this is where I see a difference between being a person that believes I was made in the same image as Adam and Abraham and Christ, and that as long as I walk those guidelines of life through love and forgiveness and not being greedy, you know, I can see why you need licensing as far as me wanting to fish and get maybe more than what I need or to sell, because now I'm going to collect a commercial profit off it. But if I'm literally just eating, okay, I don't see how it's just, I don't see how that's breaking the law or is a crime at all or needs mandatory licensing, and again, I think, like, I have a driver's license if I was going to drive, and its true proper definition, which is to conduct commercial activity. But then there's traveling. Well, I'm in the process of renegotiating that contract and working on the next step, which is closing that account. But we all have social security numbers that were given to us. My grandmother told me not to use it. But eventually, when I was getting a job, they told me that I needed that to have the job. So did they violate my rights or did I violate my own rights? Okay? Because my grandmother told me when I was a child not to use it. But then as I got older and I hit 18, the only way to be able to get a job was through that. So this is where I didn't get full disclosure of the contract of why I'm even using this. Does it benefit me or does it benefit them? Was it made for me, the living man, the real actual autonomous being?
Why would you question any of a social security number?
When I was a kid, why not? Why should I believe everything at face value without questioning its purpose? And
This is my head.
this is where you stick yourself back in there. See, I'm the
I
guy.
don't have to
You know what they did to me? What was your name? Sorry.
It's Jessica.
Jessica, you know what they did to me in school? They separated me completely from all the kids because I would ask, like, where did this come from? I was like, I'm sitting
Where'd you go to school?
I went to many schools. First, it was Lynn, Massachusetts. Then I moved to Maine. I went to Cornish Elementary and then Massabesic High School.
All up north?
Yep.
Okay.
Then I left those because of differences. I went to a school called Future Builders. My mom let me quit school and then got a job doing foundations for a couple of years. And then I met my dad for the first time, came down to Florida, went back up north, decided to go back to school. That was difficult because I had already quit school, got a full-time job, tried to be a man in the real world, and then went back.
Either, are you, or not?
Well, you know what I mean. You're paying bills, and then you're sitting next to kids that have never experienced any of that. They didn't have any of these crazy transitions in their life. So I ended up going to a vocational school, Job Corps. I got my GED, and then a level C in culinary arts.
Half my best friends have done all of that.
Really? This is hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why I relate so well to them. Is because the best people I relate to have gone through the ups and downs and all of that. The people who I don't relate well to are the people who had it
Straight line.
And I'm like, dude, you haven't met life.
Right.
Life is like this.
Life is crazy. It is
like
twist
a
up,
roller.
down. It's been wild.
And
It really
ain't
has.
done yet.
It's not done. I'm still having fun. It's led me where I am now. And
You have to end up finding
I did
a
question.
little stability though, because
I
you have
agree.
a lot of questions.
I agree. Well,
You
my
have a lot of
questions,
questions.
I see where I want to be, okay? And I believe that, when I look at government, I see the equality, but in a private stance, So,
Well, I mean, between everything that we've discussed today, you have so many questions about all of them that you need to look to see what you want the answer to be. Because even once you get an answer, you're going to find a question to that answer. So, what do you want the solidified answer to be? What will make you satisfied on that answer?
This is where I'm at, exactly. It's like, I've been doing this now for a long time, building a certain specific awareness in a world that doesn't have this awareness. They are in the box. They are following the line. They want to be free, but as soon as they're met with freedom, there's resistance right there. They don't even respect freedom, because freedom is dangerous. Freedom is something that you're free, and you have to trust that people have goodwill.
That's
okay?
Fantastically free.
That's the best freedom.
And it's scary.
It is. But yet,
Fallen.
it's beautiful. Okay? Because when you look at society today, as much as they want freedom, when you start meeting them with the actual heart and spirit of freedom, somehow, like I'll give you an example. I go shopping, and sometimes I think, well, I usually listen to a speaker, okay, that while I'm shopping. So I'm shopping for food and stuff, and sometimes customers will be like, so what, we have to all listen to this? And I was like, well, I mean, I don't want to listen to this. You know, I'm going to listen to this. And he's like, well, how come you can't listen to this then? He's telling me now what kind of genre.
Eating on there, and you're
In there for their second moment, just like right now, I could walk down the road and they can impede upon my.
Right, if there's some boom,
Yep.
boom, boom, drop
That's
it,
right. There's nothing I can do except for just respect
Yeah.
the freedom that we all have and share
That's
together.
what you do.
That's what I do. So he turned around and I was like, listen, buddy, we're in America, right? He's like, well, I thought we were. Now, this is the guy who's telling me to turn my music to either Eagles or Metallica or nothing at all. And I'm thinking to myself, you could easily buy your own Bluetooth speaker, because we're in Walmart, and play the Eagles and Metallica. And we could both pass by each other in the aisle while both our speakers are like playing different sounds and genres. I was like, please don't get intimidated because we're free, man.
So you can
And
mess
so-
up all the 40 people around you.
Well, I've had a lot of people compliment as well. So it's pick and choose. It's hit or miss
It
of
is.
when you're gonna meet a grumpy, socialistic person and they are socialistic because,
You put a term on them. That's not cool.
well, when you study ideology and because like they said that a lot of like communism, socialism, even democraticness, which is an invention out of the Constitution based off the District of Columbia, but in Article 4, it talks about how we're guaranteed a Republican form of government in each state. So no matter what, we live in a republic. But based off, I believe it's Article 1, Section 8, Clause, I think 17, is where we get the District of Columbia in the Constitution, which is now our democratic Constitution. This is from Greece. Rome was a democratic government, and now we have a democratic government. But we're not really a democracy, but they say we are. These are ideologies. And so what I heard through my teachings was that at first the government and religion was the government was the church. And then, the things that didn't work and were almost too, what's the word for it? I wouldn't say tyrannical, but too heavy-footed, too fire and brimstone.
Okay.
Certain ideologies would be removed from the church that became ideologies such as communism. Okay? Even atheism is still a religion in a way, an ideology. So Christianity, a lot of people say America is not a Christian nation, but I have a lot of history and documents that actually contradict that this was based off Christian principles and the escape of Rome, the escape of kings, to look at Jesus Christ as our king. You see? And even a lot of our founding fathers, when they recreated, they saw the promising of what America has to stand for. It is those true religious freedoms. And so this is where they created a government that's now outside the authority of a church. Okay? So it's not the same, and these dictating principles, just like he said, different money, different belief systems, different, countries in one country, which is impressive, but it really did start from the precepts of the Bible and these Christian fundamental beliefs. So people were governing themselves. The government could come up with something, and people would not pay any mind to it. They didn't realize that when the government was passing a law, it's for their children. It's not for right now. It's for the future.
For the future.
Yep. And so people were not taking a real, actual participation in their government. So the government did it for them. Does this make sense?
They didn't
So
know how to.
when communism was taking over from World War I is when it first got implicated, then in atheism as well. These were like pre-designed, pushed ideologies into the public. And then because they said that they can erode your religious beliefs and they can go after your government. And then they can take it over. Well, there was an individual named Karl Marx. And Karl Marx was a communist, but he saw a broader spectrum of where communism should go and created what people call Marxism because of Karl Marx. So he believed in capitalism, but everything should be owned by the state and go to the state, all produce and everything. Whereas true capitalism is individual, like you own a company, you're benefiting the community, you are the community now, you're offering something to the public. And you know what, you got a business, which is your baby, and it offers the ability for people to have a job. Well, you can start, next you know, you got 14, 15 employees getting all great, and then the greedy state is in there being like, well,
Let me have a piece of
right, we want just not a piece. We want the pie, you're going to get the piece. Okay? And so this is what has happened to society on an unconscious level. Subconsciously, we believe we're free, but through media, through the breaking down, fear, okay? Terrorists, ISIS, okay? Yep, all these things have created it where we want freedom and it's good for us until we see somebody exercising freedom. You can't be doing that. The best example is these First Amendment auditors filming people in the public out in the street, and then somebody's calling the police because their feelings are hurt. So then now the police are going out there and they are actually preserving our constitutional liberties because they're forcing people to recognize the First Amendment. The freedom of press, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, and redress of grievances, and I believe that there's freedom of religion. So they're enforcing the freedom of the press by the people because they're like, well, you have to have a license. See, going back to that license again. Well, once there's a license, now we can dictate how you're going to get the license. This is not freedom. This is a dictatorship. And so this is where people like me believe that, okay, you want to be a part of that system? Go right ahead. Put shackles on. This is the way it is. But I'm going to be over here. And I'm going to join this, people that are going to fight for your children that aren't even born yet. So one day they might sit there and say, we live in a free country, right? And
Sounds so judgy.
in what way? Tell me.
Shackles on, you sit over here while I fight for it. That all sounds judgy.
I'm glad you're telling me that. Why is it judgy? What makes it judgmental?
It sounds judgy. It sounds like you're judging them for not agreeing with what you
Okay, so check it out.
and you
Jessica,
are agreeing or
I
disagreeing.
spent about 10 years of my life. Okay, so when it first started, I got a radio show. Now, the radio show was great because it started off, I'm not telling you what to believe, I'm just asking that you engage in the process of thinking in general. After 23 episodes, then getting canceled because the people they couldn't handle the information, the people in the network. So listen, I turned around and I created documentations, and I spent a good portion of my life really looking at my family and all my friends and everybody, wanting them to wake up. Okay, I'd be like, come on now, they're doing this. We got to do this. We got to join the local government. We got to do this. They're going to try to brainwash our kids. I didn't know COVID was going to come, but I knew what the implications were of COVID. And once it started happening, I was like, this is it. And everybody thought I was crazy. Well, I began to eject from the system. And then I started to see that the friends that I told them all about the government and all these things, they were running down getting vaccinated. I was like, oh my God. So I realized that I need to have faith in myself. I need to have faith in God, not people. I even would sit there and be like, God is love and love overrides all fear. What is wrong with everybody? And the Spirit was telling me inside when I would meditate, you can't save everybody. I have a personal relationship with everybody. Those who call on me, I'm going to be with them. People who don't call on me, I'm not going to be with them. It's just the way it is. And I was like, okay. So I started to, it just hit me one day. It was like, well, why do you want to help people? Why do you believe that they need to wake up? And I was like, because, they're basically their society. So if they're society, then what are you? I'm an individual. So there's a difference between a person that has individual awareness. The flock will go with whoever is going to smack that ruler and correct them. And now they're going to obey out of fear. Whereas me, you try to put fear into me and coercion to get me to do what you want me to do, you're going to get the opposite. I become a rebel. So to me, I wanted to expose the lie, but they believed the lie. So who am I to tell them what they're doing is right or wrong? So, right, I know. So a part of me then sat there and started to unravel and look inwardly. That
you can't use the words got to, have to, need to.
I had to.
I mean, to others, you cannot.
It took a long time to realize that, Jessica. I spent about 10 years of my life really creating problems in my life because I was not aware of my own self.
You created your own problems.
I did.
In order to get over your own problems.
Well, they say this right here.
Half of that
They,
probably helped
I
you
heard
there.
there was an individual that I came across, and he said, your life purpose is what you're telling other people that they need to do, is what you should be doing. And so,
Reflection in the mirror.
absolutely. So it took a while to know and grasp these things. That's why I'm really glad I came across that maxim that he who tries to convert one to another is an act of war. That these are how holy wars started.
Yeah.
That, you see what I'm saying? You're trying to change people's beliefs and ideologies into yours. This is an act of war. So I was creating war among my peers, not realizing it. The thing is that when you have
created your own internal war, dude.
I did, but I'm creating peace with it. It's accepting society as it is.
You are getting.
I'm getting there. You said that it was judgy, and I'm glad that you did. Maybe I feel judgment from both ends, If I can't go be free and then I'm getting judged from society because I want to unplug, I'm crazy. I'm this.
I think it's just,
You see, how is that not judgy?
hold on.
Okay.
Let me. And I think, but I should say, I believe certain words that you use.
I appreciate you pointing it out.
Because it becomes very
Have you ever heard of shadow work?
dominant.
Have you ever heard of shadow work? So shadow work is where you write down everything that you don't like about somebody and you put your name at the top and you ask yourself, have you ever done this before? How does it make you feel? Not good. So then there'll be between 3 different emotions: resentment, judgment, and denial. So one, the resentment is that it's unfair, unjust, and an indignation also, like as though my words are like weapons. So it's like it's a stone hitting you, but I never actually hit you. So it's like you hurt,
Right,
but nothing
right.
ever even happened.
Right.
So and also I found out in the Bible, offense. People will be offended in the end times a lot more. That also boils down to resentment. So between these 3 factors, just in resentment alone, which is a normal human response, I don't know if it's taught, I don't know where maybe it was like passed down by our grandmothers or whatever. Like I said, I could watch you do something and either I'm going to start copying you or I'm going to immediately become the polar opposite. You understand? Like, you could be an alcoholic and I hate alcohol. But this is through resentment, judgments, and denials. Yep.
And then let it hit, yeah.
Exactly. So within society, I do a lot of shadow work, and that helps me face the parts of myself that would be extra sensitive and would become offended of life.
Do you take it in?
What I do is I sit in it to a point of where I bawl my eyes out, almost like a vein. So first it's the well of the pain itself that's affecting me, right? So then I'll ask myself to forgive myself for judging the emotion, and I'll ask the Lord to forgive me. And then I'll say, when's the first time you felt this way? And it'll ride it all the way down like a vein to the origin of it. And sometimes I remember where it is or I don't, but I'll sit in there and I'll say, it's okay that you feel this way, okay? But we don't have to feel this way anymore because nothing's wrong. It's
How often
okay.
do you do that?
Well, it's become something that I do pretty much daily and on a continual basis, at least forgiving myself and facing what some would say is your enemy out in front of you.
Are there certain things every day
Um,
that you are
Recently, I would
pushing
say,
through the bowel?
yeah, there's
The-
three
the
things that
diet?
majorly happened since I got back. You know, my mom passed away. My brother and I have kind of a distant relationship that he doesn't really know who I am. So the way he witnesses me is more of a projection, but it was really a negative projection. So because I love my brother and I really love God so much, um, I allowed my brother to be around me, and it was very abusive and toxic, but my reactions, you see, so I loved my brother through it. So this hurt me though. And then, but my brother is like a version of me, because the more that you do the shadow work, you realize the only one you're mad at is yourself. The only one you resent is really yourself. The only one you really let down was you. And he's a version of me in a way. So by me being around him, and my dad's obviously the origin of me, and but yet doesn't see his self in me, and he doesn't see me as him. He sees people outside of him. You understand what I'm saying? So his perception can be very narcissistic, that he's always right. He is kind of dominating. He is threatening, but the way that I look at the narcissist is also a version of the narcissist inside me. So how I view the narcissist, the things that happen through those abusive characteristics, I can heal those things inside me.
Do you want to be around them?
You know, I've spent most of my life being angry at him and not wanting to be around him, almost to the point of where I wanted to hurt him. That now I realize the only one who's
You're
hurt.
family, so I mean, you're supposed to want to be around your family, but sometimes family is not the people you need to be around.
I agree, but I carried this stuff with me for years of my life that I realized I could leave tomorrow and nothing's changed. I'll just be carrying this grief that I
That's on
realize
you.
it's me. Yes. So the more I'm around him, I'm healing and letting go of those things for me. For me.
So you think that being around him is going
Well-
to let it go as opposed to just letting it go?
I spent a lot of time in my life being that guy that if you hurt me and I never saw you for, let's say, 5 years, the moment I saw you, I remember, because of the feeling, exactly what you did to me.
But are you letting anything go every time you're around him?
Yes. He's not around me every day.
No, I mean,
Okay.
but you are like chipping away every time you're around him. Any negative?
All of it. All of
Is
it.
it helping him?
I hope so. I pray to God, because I don't just do this for myself. I think about him too. Yeah, when I pray,
Are you guys getting in a better bond?
yeah, it is. It's getting better every day.
That's good.
He triggers me at times, which is good. I
That's
like him
siblings,
triggering me,
baby.
man.
That's siblings.
You know? So he triggers me, and, I'm learning to process the emotions. It's kind of like having this conversation right now, you know? I respect you as a human being, and right now, and I want the same in return. And you have your own ideology, your own continuity in self that is your own beliefs. And that's right. And, I would much rather
I don't
meet
have
you.
the same memories that you do that he might. You know, you same memories of
What I'm saying is my
growing
dad
up.
doesn't know me. He never took the time.
But your brother does.
My brother's my best friend. Me and him are really good. We're because so with me and Lon, I'm really seeing Lon. Me and Lon, he is actually so in shadow work, right? It starts off where you're gonna realize that the shadow begins with the first people that are in your life, and mine was my brother. So my shadow in my relationship with Lon became my reflection in relationships with other people.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? So me and Lon didn't really get along at first. So then I would find friends, and sometimes we would vent about the problems that we have with our friends, not realizing these are parts that I don't like about myself. Then when we find our friend, it's actually a reflection of our brother,
Yeah.
in a way.
Yeah.
Same with our relationships, actually. Going into the female, it's really strange, but the more that I've gone deeper inside myself, I realize that I was holding on to many versions of Lon, my brother, till now. So I'm remembering Lon through all these different versions of when he was a kid. That's blurring my vision of who he is today.
Because he was your bestie. He was
That's right.
You guys were like
Yep.
always. Yeah.
So we had problems in our. He would always say that I have a problem with him, and I was like, "No, Lon, it's you, buddy." And then now he's finally
It's
realizing.
always you, it's always
Well,
you.
you can have a problem with me. He's saying I'm the one with the problem,
What was
and I
yours?
was like, he was just a bully. He's
What is
mean.
Lon's shadow of you?
Okay,
He must have the same thoughts.
he does with the
friends
same.
and the same thing.
Yeah.
So what was his issue? You guys are so similar that you butted heads.
You know, in life, there's darkness and light, good and bad, or they call it thesis and antithesis. Okay, so me and Lon are just complete opposites. Just complete opposites.
Okay.
So if I can learn to love my complete opposite, I'm loving a version of
You're the
myself.
yin to the yang.
Yep, truly.
Yeah.
So it'd be like, you know, it's really strange, but it's the truth.
Now I can understand
And
that.
there is a, you know, like within life, there's a marrying of both things. That even though there's an opposite, there's similarities. You're borrowing and
That's
exchanging.
why an
And,
eclipse left.
yes.
That's why it happens.
Yes.
Because they need to.
Yeah, I realize people are afraid, and through fear comes control, or the idea of power then creates
Lots of
identity.
power.
Yes, but
The lack
they
of
don't
power
know
that
what
you
they're
don't know
doing.
what to do,
They don't know
sometimes
what they're doing.
You
So,
just scramble.
but what is the purpose of it? So, because I asked myself this, and how the baby boomers were surviving, and how that's a real prominent figure of the ego. Less soul, more ego, identity, you see? And this is where I think a good portion of the narcissistic spirit was birthed into this country. And even I held on to these traits, being, because there's, you know, it's more of a psychological thing. It's almost like the empath is the soul and the narcissist is the ego, and they need each other to survive. Okay? Okay. So an empath can take on narcissistic traits because that's their environment, but it's not who they are. You see? So the more that you break through the layers and you know who you are now, it doesn't take away the narcissist. The narcissist is a person that almost found satisfaction in the idea that I need to do these things to survive. This is who we are.
Yeah.
And so they're losing sight of what real reality is.
Yeah, you one is absorption and a sunburst. One absorbs and the other one bursts.
Yes. And so I noticed this with relationships, even with lesbian relationships, because I have a friend who's a lesbian and she's a lot like me, very sensitive and stuff, and dating a female archetype that's taking on more the masculine persona. Coming home doing the same thing that a husband would do. I do this, I worked all day, you don't value me. But that's them not valuing, that's them projecting their reality and then creating these problems. So she ended up leaving, you know, and I don't blame her.
Relationship.
It totally is. That's what I'm saying. And so, and it goes back to the idea that when you know these things, even from a psychological point of view, there's still no such thing as gender. There really is. I mean, there's no such thing as a displacement of gender. That there's still going to be masculine and feminine.
A relationship, whether it be
A male,
female,
yep, or two males together,
siblings,
yep.
parents, adult child, they're always going to have a friction. They're always going to have some kind of rivalry, and they're always going to have some kind of unity. Whether the unity is, the bond is the bad stuff that's happened, the good stuff that's happened, or just button heads. That by itself is a unity.
You're kind of helping me face of where I'm at a point in my life where I realize all the errors in my ways. And when you do, you right away want to be a better person, a better husband, a better son, a better citizen. You want to be a better person all around. Absolutely. And then there's that level of getting into a unified relationship with somebody.
I'll see y'all a Sunday.
Yes, a Sunday.
I know at least I'll see him at least two.
Yeah,
That's where I'm
next,
meeting.
yeah, he's got, I think, yeah, next Sunday.
Okay, it's not next Sunday, is it?
The second Sunday, isn't
Yeah,
it?
because the first, yeah, it's
The
not next
first one
Sunday.
just happened,
Yeah,
so
it's,
you
it's
have,
Sunday after.
Sunday
that.
after, because
yeah,
the first was on Monday.
that's right, that's right.
Okay, see
Bye,
how that-
darling. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. We were talking about archetypes, psychology, relationships.
The things that have happened that you're trying to make better.
Yeah, that when you realize the error of your ways,
Mm-hmm.
you already want to be a better person. So, and some people will jump into relationships. I decided that after my last major relationship, it's probably me. So I wanted to go ahead and do some self-help work. You know, I wanted to really.
Probably.
Well, there's problems.
Most likely.
Right. So I decided to go and evaluate myself more, and I definitely realized, you know, the error of my ways that made me want to be a better partner. And so what I'm noticing is that some people, I don't know why, it's like their souls are not meant to be together. It's like there's always this friction, whereas some people get together and it's perfect harmony. You know, the chemistry of, you know, how human psychology works together. It's really interesting. But yeah.
I don't think anything is ever perfect, but I think that things bond well together.
That's what I'm saying though. I'm gonna be more patient, I guess. Because you're teaching me to, you know, understand that there is still hope of bonding relationships, you know, the kind of person I am, you know, I guess grounding is probably what I'm going to need to do more. Ground, I think you're right. I try to not evaluate too much information, but it just comes to me. It's not my fault. It just comes to me like a magnet. So, but my passion really is studying law, exercising it to degrees. That's where I feel like my calling is.
Well,
You know?
I like how you have questions about everything. I mean, the whole spectrum of everything, but it seems like you just want to pick, like scab pick to find the answer instead of just finding an answer and living with that for a while. And then maybe ask another question in a year or so.
Oh my God. I have literally stacks of journals, and they're all individual for specific topics. So that when information comes to
But
me,
you pick.
no, it finds me and it becomes a puzzle piece to add to what I've already learned.
But when are you?
I don't know.
Satisfied?
I think it's, you know,
Or
they
when
have
you
people
live in the
like this.
moment?
There's people
Oh,
like
just-
this. They're investigative reporters. There's people that are called theologians. I love history in its full entirety that's led to now, whereas a lot of people, they're like, oh, that's in the past. We don't need to live that. But it's like, yeah, but history repeats itself if you don't know history. And if it wasn't for all those, you know, like law. Law is a great, you know, landmark through history.
But if
True
you look
facts.
at all of those journals every damn day of the year, what did you do on that year? Throughout that year? You kept looking and looking and looking.
No,
you
they-
didn't live that year, did you?
Oh, I did. I still did.
What did you do?
I mean, I'm here right now. So I got
To
bored.
live, but what did you do?
Many things. Like usually, okay, I love nature. I make jewelry. I play music. I've written 8 albums worth of music. I've lived enough to know not to do certain things because it's dangerous or not exhilarating anymore. You can
So
only
you're not sitting there
no.
in your room just going journal
All day, every day. No. No. It'll be like, you know, I'll be sitting down and there'll be days where, you know, I'm evaluating or studying specific topics. And then something will just click in my head like, okay, enough of this. We got to go live, you know. All work and no play creates a doughboy, you know.
Yes.
So I'll go do things. The only thing is I don't find it fast. Okay, I'll go to bars now, but not to be the life of the party. I used to always be the life of the party. So now I observe people. And, okay?
That's one of our favorite things to do.
Yep.
We love
People
observing
watching and
Yeah.
Analyzing.
I
And
mean, it seems kind of rude, but yeah, we do. or at diners, or
it's interesting because
IHOP,
people,
just to watch.
yeah.
Just
People are fascinating.
Interaction.
They're, the Bible says to entertain strangers is like entertaining angels. You never know who you're going to entertain. So,
That is so true.
you're watching people on a grand chessboard of life being an actor in their own story, not realizing that they're playing a role. And so when you're kind of pulled above this in an aerial point of view, like an eagle almost looking down, you're kind of seeing the world, and then you can kind of get a good read on people. If you're good, you can kind of figure out where people are coming from. You can almost feel them,
That's true.
and it's really interesting. And then,
I'm glad I allowed you to be a person in my story.
yes, same here. It's important to me, especially with like-minded folk that kind of, when you study law, there is a heightened awareness of things that you're not going to get. It really describes, I've read this one book. I'm still reading it. It's The Secret Teachings of All Ages by Manly P. Hall. It talks about the philosophers of the ancient mystery schools that created a lot of the foundation of our religions. It's like they knew that if you told somebody not to do something, they're going to go do it. And when you look at the Ten Commandments, it's all the thou shalt not do's. Well, everybody violated those laws.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a difference between so when you have a heightened sense of awareness between the conscious, the superconscious, or the subconscious, and then the superconscious, these are still realms within the heavenly kingdom of our own self that also exist in the existential form. So within the esoteric nature of things, there is an origin of figuring out the human mind and creating order, okay, within this. So this is where I see the first origins of society were from the thinkers. They were people that questioned reality, okay? They came up with language. Mm-hmm. They understood these things and then began to disseminate it out to the public and create society, create culture. But without the original mystery schools, then we wouldn't have the foundation of what we have.
The philosophers, all
Yes,
of that jazz.
all them. And then, so this is where I see, it's like, let's think about some of the dark things that happen in the Vatican and why they're doing that. Why is there...
How about we don't think of that?
The reason why I'm thinking about it is because, the reason why I think about these things is because what the layman is allowed to know and do is different than what the people that are running this country or running the world and what they're doing. And it makes you really try to understand.
They both have the same amount of soul. And they're both under God. They're both undergoing God.
I didn't say there isn't. There's...
That's what I'm saying. But you're putting worthy over one over the other.
What I'm saying is that there's people that are understanding the dark forces as well as the light forces.
Still going to hell, still going to heaven.
They're definitely going. Okay?
Your soul is a soul.
I'm not judging that. I'm saying, how do I put it? You're right. Well, they do by the people in their belief in them.
Not over me.
What I'm saying, and this is very hard to articulate because these are things that I've had deep theories upon, that I think a lot of people don't think that deep with that kind of understanding and understanding how psychology works and our participation with the mechanics of the universe. That seeds like information get planted and then begin to manifest. You can almost harness a true culture and society based off information. Just information alone, it becomes like common collective practices. You see? And so we're governing ourselves now and enforcing laws on society just by these things downloaded into our psyche. It's like they know this. You see? So collectively, they almost hijack our imagination. And I think that they know the truth, which is that there is a God, there is nothing but love, and is that a collective gnosis? Or is the collective knowledge of people fear, what they watch in the morning news, that becomes collective now? Everybody's watching the same stuff, being narrated
I
that
think
way.
everybody watching the same stuff and being scared of the same stuff makes everybody scared and protective of themselves and fear of another.
What kind of society does this create?
Nothing if you turn the TV off and get off your damn phone.
I'm with you, but I'm saying that is what I think creates the chaos that we feel around us
and at the
and
end
live.
of the day,
Yep.
when you're in the hospital room and you're on your dying bed, is any of that gonna matter?
No, only sacred moments like this, friends, family, memories, that's really all that matters.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
You know?
Yeah.
Yep. The depth of, trust me, I live in the moment and now, and I don't want to keep giving life to the things that bother me.
Good.
You know what I'm saying? Respect them, they're fine, it's okay. Let them go to sleep.
If you keep
Okay.
watering that plant, it's gonna keep growing. So
I'm with
do
you.
it.
Yeah. So I feel like I had a crazy year just go by. We're going into a new one. The
We are
possibilities.
into it.
Yep, we're already there. So there's beautiful possibilities. I still am. What I'm inquiring about is, if I was to go and defend myself using the Corpus Juris Secundum and the American jurisprudence, let's say second edition, okay, would they recognize that in law, or would they brush that over? Let's say as a defense.
Are you wanting to do that because you need to, or are you just wondering about it?
I think that it's good for anybody moving forward, no matter what, especially dealing with contract law or being free.
So it's
and
not something that you need to have.
No.
You're just wondering about it.
Well, I'm gonna, my plan is to exercise freedom at a dangerous level of where hopefully police know who I am and leave me alone because they know I'm not violating any laws or breaking any laws. And so, essentially exercising my constitutional right to travel in an automobile that's not registered. Now, I believe in insurance. We just discovered that.
Yeah. You
And I
said
think
that.
driving, if I'm conducting commercial
So you do
activity,
not hurt anybody else.
that's right.
Right.
Yep.
And you do have a driver's license.
Yes, if I choose to use it
So why
in
would
that
you
capacity.
register your vehicle?
Because that is actually turning it over to the state. That's where they own it now, and where they can also apply all those laws and statutes and codes and regulations.
But you're
And
insuring it.
Insuring it is different. You can't register it unless it's insured. So you got to go insure it first to then get it registered. Okay? So I'd rather just insure it and keep it away from the securities because, I have an affidavit and I did a lot of the research, but essentially, when you're registering it over to the state, they now have ownership over it. It's not yours anymore, and it becomes a tax. And
But
so
you have a license.
that's
from
right.
The
But
state.
well, that's because, and on my license, my name is copywritten. And even where I signed it, I followed through with UCC 1-308, which is a reservation of rights without prejudice.
Okay.
So even though I'm choosing to recognize this, I didn't give up my rights
Okay.
having this. And my name is still private property, okay, under copyright law now. So to me, it falls under the Fourth Amendment, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects. Well, that is still a corporate entity, that name, and that driver's license is a contract doing commercial activity. Because, a sheriff told me one time that to let the officer know that you're not operating at a for-hire capacity or engaging in any kind of transportation use or of the highways, okay, or commercial purposes. So essentially saying that I'm not collecting a fee. I'm not for hire. So police officers will either understand what that means and you let them know that any actions commenced against me may be in violations.
State you're going through.
Well,
Where are you, what you
in
just
St.
want to
Augustine, I was
drive.
fine. I just want to be unfettered and unmolested. that as long as I'm not actually committing a tort crime, which is that there's a victim, I didn't damage anybody's property, I didn't steal anything.
Not speeding.
That's right. Yep,
Yeah.
because that's still a part of the common law.
All of your, I mean, your lights work.
Yep.
Your clicker, your everything.
Yep,
is
everything
okay.
works.
Okay.
I just don't want to have to be subject to something unless I contract towards it.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? Because the right of property, if it's my motor home and I choose to live in it, and I am not conducting commercial activity, then, and I'm not hurting anybody. Exactly. I had a conversation with Lieutenant Feeney, and he's like, well, what about speeding? And I was like, well, I believe that even the speed limit was created by the people for common law purposes, for the safety of not just one individual, but everybody on the road.
But, okay, so is there a tag or a license plate?
Well, what the nationals are doing
They
is
do,
they're looking at,
definitely.
what they're doing is they're looking under, so that's one of the things that I'm actually inquiring about, is that I have a license plate that talks about UCC 9-109, and I believe that that's the one. I could be wrong, but it talks about secured interest or secured transactions through contract. And it also has the Corpus Juris Secundum statute on there of common law of locomotion. So this is something recognized even, in the 17 and 1800s of
In all states.
all states through constitutional law. And then there's another one in the American jurisprudence, which liberty, I mean, you look at the definition of liberty, that is a strong word that's really being ignored. I mean, even without God, with the Spirit of God, there's the definition of liberty.
But when you
And
go
I think
out
it's
and
2
get your
Corinthians chapter
license,
3.
The Department of Motor Vehicles.
That's
whatever
right.
it is, do they have a tag that has that on it? That
Well,
shows,
no, because
hey, I don't need to be pulled over because I have this license.
anything from the government officials, this is what I've learned through these people in these deep communities, is that when you are working with them, you're allowing yourself to be in their jurisdiction. So when you get their license plate, their decals, that's how they have authority over you. So with the Maine or Florida Assembly, okay, there's
So
the,
wouldn't you get pulled over with that one?
no,
Yeah.
but, that's what I'm saying, is they want to pull you over without the license, exactly.
Right.
But-
without a license plate.
So listen,
if you go
so-
get one, wouldn't it be better not to get pulled over?
What I'm saying is that you're putting yourself into their jurisdiction. They own you now. Okay, so this is how they have authority over you.
But isn't it like being owned without being
You're
owned?
subject to.
But don't you have personal jurisdiction?
That is personal jurisdiction, is
I mean, that
because
registered
you're
it
sitting
as
in
yours.
this office in the state of Florida has jurisdiction over
Excuse me.
you.
Okay, just because I'm in this office right now.
As long as you're in the state of Florida.
Okay, but that's outside the realm of the District of Columbia, right? So we're in our own state jurisdiction.
No. District of Columbia, you're thinking of Washington DC.
Right. In their statutes, they're saying that that's also the state that we're residing in. That if you, okay, I don't have the internet right now, so I can't pull it up on
Well, I've
Google.
read a lot of stupid shit about the same subject on the internet, so I don't trust.
Well, what I was looking up was the
anything
legislative statutes and of Florida, and came across their definitions. One of them was state. And the state not only incorporates itself with the Florida, but also the District of Columbia. And then you go down to United States, and it also says the same thing. So to me, this is where they said in the Constitution that through consent, the U.S. government, which shall be the seat of the government of Washington District of Columbia, within the 10 square mile radius. And then through consent, and we have jurisdiction of the federal government here as well as in the state of Florida, if this makes sense. That's, and then, hey, how's it going?
Hello,
Hey,
what's up?
nothing.
Hey, I've got the deeds drafted, and I've got Jake's stuff drafted for him to sign and start the trust. I just need to arrange for everybody to get together.
What kind
Sign it
of trust?
for him to own stuff. He can't own stuff without it being,
Well,
Okay.
he's got the truck if he wants it, I've told him, but he won't put it in his name.
I don't know why, but I know.
He can put it in the name of the trust.
Huh?
He can put it in the name of the trust.
What do you mean?
But-
A trust is a legal entity that we're creating for him to do just what he's asking to do.
Well, honey, he's got permission now, I gave it to,
You-
but
but
he
you
won't-
want
he
him
won't.
You want him to put it into his name. and
He
ain't
won't,
gonna do
I
it.
told him that.
But
He don't want
wanna
it in
do
his
that.
name.
He don't want it in his name.
No,
So we're going to give it to his trust.
well, it'll go to the place. I told him that.
No, it
He
won't.
won't even put insurance on it.
It'll be fine.
He won't give me a dime on the insurance.
Well,
I think he went down there and seen the insurance cost him too much, and he don't wanna pay it.
it may be at some point that he's gonna have to pay it, or whatever, that's his problem, but,
I ain't bucking nothing that's what he wants. He owns as much as I do.
we're going to do the trust for him, and then we're gonna deed his share of the truck, the whatever, to
He
his
owns-
trust.
I told him he owns 1/3 of 1/2.
Yes, he will, when we get the deed signed, and I've drafted the deeds to that effect. But,
I
Yes.
told him we could sell it if he wants to. It don't matter to me.
technically you can't. You
I
can't sell it.
said
Now,
that.
after the case is over, you can sell it or whatever,
Well,
but,
honey,
right
it's
now-
been a long time and it needs to be done.
I know that we're working on that, and this past, several months has been kind of a nowhere go on it, but, I've got all the things drafted up that we need to push the thing forward. I just need dates to get him to come in and sign, we'll
Well,
record the
then there's
notice,
2 other kids that,
we'll record the notice of trust, cause